So today we're going to be starting a brand new weapon breakdown series here on the channel, covering every single weapon in XDefiant over the coming months, including all the new ones we get each season, and of course they will be updated as we get any patches changing any of these stats. In this series we're going to be going through all the weapon stats you need to know, the best loadouts, the recoil patterns, their strengths and weaknesses, the best maps to use them on, even the best factions and gadgets to pair with them. And today we're going to be starting off with my most used gun so far, the ACR. Now all of these stats have been double checked by myself in the practice range, but the initial values have come from XDloadout.com, so shout out to those guys for all the hard work they do over there as well. Now before we do get into all of the stats and stuff, I like to start with a quick overview of the ACR, and like I said, this is my most used weapon so far in XDefiant, at least earlier on in the preseason anyway. I've definitely changed it up a little bit more as we've moved into the preseason, but this weapon is definitely a jack of all trades, as most ARs tend to be at times. It has some of the more easily manageable recoil of any assault rifle in the game, and it definitely packs a punch too, meaning that if you hit your shots it can be absolutely deadly. Now jumping into those damage stats, all the weapons in XDefiant have essentially 3 different damage values based on different ranges. When it comes to the body shots for the ACR, it deals 21 damage per shot up to 33 meters, 19 damage per shot up to 45 meters, and then anything beyond that it will deal 17 damage per shot to the body. As for headshots, the ACR deals 29 damage per shot up to 33 meters, 27 damage per shot up to 45 meters, and then anything beyond that it'll be 24 damage per shot to the head. Now in regards to the miscellaneous stats, as is the case with every assault rifle so far in XDefiant, it has a 30 round magazine, so that is obviously average. And the thing to keep in mind in this series with the miscellaneous stats, they are going to be color coded, so you can see here there are orange or red ones. Green will be above average, orange will be average, and red will be below average. When it comes to the fire rate, the ACR fires at a rate of 625 rounds per minute, which is pretty much around the middle of all of the other assault rifles. When it comes to the reload time, it does have the slowest of the assault rifles, coming in at 2.3 seconds to reload, and the same goes for the ADS time as well. It has the slowest of the assault rifles at 320 milliseconds to aim down sights. Now using those damage stats as well as the drop-off ranges, we can figure out how many shots it is to kill, with the ACR being 5 shots to kill up to that 33 meter range, at which point anything beyond that will be 6 shots to the body to kill on every faction in the game other than the Phantoms. Comparing that to all of the other assault rifles in the game, as you can see, it does deal very solid damage, and it definitely handles itself well compared to those other assault rifles. Now when it comes to the time to kill, assuming you hit every shot to the body, it'll take 384 milliseconds to kill an enemy up to 33 meters, and then anything beyond that it'll be 480 milliseconds to kill. And again, keep in mind that is obviously if you're hitting every shot, provided they are to the body. Again, if we compare that to all of the other assault rifles in the assault rifle class, you can see that the ACR really does excel. Up close it has the fastest time to kill, and at range it has the fastest time to kill too. It just has that little area in the middle, which is essentially mid-range, somewhere from about 30 odd meters to roughly the 50 meter mark, where other weapons do overtake it for the time to kill, but essentially at close range and long range it has the fastest time to kill. And the thing to keep in mind too, that even in that middle section, this is assuming you're hitting every shot, and the ACR has got some of the best accuracy of all of these weapons. So though their time to kills might be faster than it, if you even miss one shot with any of those other weapons, technically speaking the time to kill isn't actually going to be faster. Now speaking of the recoil pattern, as you can see here, this is what the ADS recoil pattern looks like. It is very simple. It's probably some of the easiest in the entire game to manage. It just goes up and to the right, so obviously pulling down and slightly to the left on your stick or on the mouse will counter that recoil. It is also a lot less random than many other weapons in the game. As for the hipfire recoil, it's pretty much the same case for that hipfire too, although realistically with an assault rifle you're not really going to be hipfiring it all that often. Now just quickly, for those interested in making the weapon grind a little bit easier in XDefiant, MitchCactus.com has you covered, as they will actually grind weapon levels, attachments and skins for you while you're out at work or at school. They have well over 10,000 verified Trustpilot reviews. All of their packages are completely safe and legitimate. They also have 24/7 customer support and even a 100% money back guarantee. Head on over to MitchCactus.com using the link in the description and use code SAMMY for 5% off for a limited time only. Now moving on to the loadout, and the loadout that I run for my ACR, I've named it the aggro build because this is essentially built to be very aggressive and mobile. That's just generally way how I like to play the game, but in saying that, it doesn't really give up too much in terms of the accuracy either. You can consider this almost like an assault rifle and SMG hybrid, or at least as close to that as you can get with the ACR anyway. For this loadout, I run the reflex sight. Obviously, that is just a personal preference, so put whatever sight on there that you want, or if you do enjoy the iron sights, feel free to just essentially add maybe a stock to this or even a suppressor. I then run the lightweight barrel that helps a lot with the ADS speed as well as the sprint speed, and then the super light grip also does pretty much exactly the same thing, so I'm kind of doubling down with both of those attachments, and obviously both of those buy into essentially just adding a little bit more mobility, which helps a lot with that aggressive playstyle. I then run the fast mag, which kind of goes without saying, this is the best magazine attachment in the game in my opinion. And then lastly, I run the heavy grip just to reduce the horizontal recoil a little bit. Vertical recoil is often a little bit easier to manage, so helping out with the horizontal recoil makes that just a little bit easier. Now that's the loadout that I run. What I will say though is if you guys want me to do multiple loadouts moving forward throughout this series, doing for example like a close range loadout, a long range loadout, and then maybe like the meta loadout, something like that, be sure to let me know, or let me know if you'd prefer me to just give you what I think is the best loadout for the weapon. Leave your thoughts on that down in the comment section. Now in terms of the strengths for the ACR, I've sort of touched on it a little bit already, but I personally think it has some of the best recoil management in the entire game. It has a very steady, easy to learn recoil pattern. That means it is very easy to counter that, and you can do some really good recoil management with the ACR. Like I said, it also has the fastest time to kill of any assault rifle when it comes to close range and long range, so both of those are essentially strengths. It's really good at close range compared to the other assault rifles, and also pretty damn solid at long range too. In terms of its weaknesses, the only real weakness it has in my opinion is that it is kind of the jack of all trades, which as they say, jack of all trades, master of none. It doesn't really do anything objectively better than any other assault rifle in the game in terms of it's not the best long range assault rifle, it's not necessarily the best close range, because for example, even though the time to kill is quicker, the MDR is probably a little bit better when it comes to just playing it as if it's an SMG. So although it's really good at kind of everything, it doesn't nail down one thing that it is absolutely perfect at. Like I said too, the time to kill does suffer a little bit at mid-range compared to most other weapons. Not that it's a huge factor in, obviously with it being a little bit more accurate at times, that does kind of counter that out a little bit, but that is definitely still one of its weaknesses. Now in terms of the best maps for the ACR, and this is mostly in terms of just the arena maps, because the linear ones are kind of good for every weapon in different sections of those maps. I personally think maps like Liberty, Mayday, Pueblito, and Noodleplex are all great for the ACR. They all have really good sort of longer range and even mid-range lines of sight in some high traffic areas, as well as some really crucial areas of the map too, meaning that you are kind of getting the most out of the strengths for the ACR. Plus they all have some close quarters areas too, where like I said, the ACR can do pretty damn well for an assault rifle. In terms of which faction I would recommend using the ACR with, at least for me anyway, I think it's great to use the Phantoms and their mag barrier. It feels like that for me is where I have my best games with it. Now I usually run Echelon, that's probably my main faction in the game, but whenever I do play Phantoms, it kind of makes me play a little bit slower than I do with the Echelon class, and it makes me think about my next move just a little bit more. And even though, like I said, this is a weapon that I use pretty aggressively, I think playing it a little bit slower than I would with an actual SMG does really help that playstyle. So I really like running the Phantoms with the mag barrier with this loadout, but realistically any faction in the game can do really well. Overall, the ACR is definitely one of the best weapons in the whole game, not only in my personal opinion, but statistically it does also rank very highly on the XD loadout side as well, and it is definitely a weapon you can consider to be one of the meta weapons as of right now in XDefiant. So that is it for the first weapon breakdown for XDefiant, guys. Like I said, I'm keen to hear if there's anything you want to see improved in this series moving forward, so be sure to leave some feedback down below. I'm definitely down to add or change certain things depending on what you guys leave in the comments. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there in the arena.